It's Monday morning, and what's up, Faina? We are going to be starting off our new week of Praise You Chats, and today we are going to be joined by my old dear friend, Faina Derman from Hong Kong. And before I put her on, I'm just going to wait for a few more people to trickle in since I know it's early in the morning on the eastern side of the United States. And we will then get to talking with Faina about what's going on in Hong Kong, her perspective on art gallery life during COVID-19, and just get a little bit of insight also on the landscape in Hong Kong right now. So for those of you who haven't joined before, this is a daily chat that I've been doing for the last few weeks. And hey, Jose. Hi, Alona. These are daily chats I've been doing for the last few weeks with people from the creative industries, primarily the fine art world, but also other industries. And a lot of these chats I'm archiving on my YouTube channel, which is on the link in the bio if you go to the Instagram. So it's on a couple of different platforms, but the archived ones are great, and I've seen a lot of people refer to them. So yes. All right. Hi, everyone joining in. This is Ing. We're going to have Faina from White Cube in Hong Kong, and I'm going to put her on right now. Let's see. How's everyone doing Monday morning, by the way? Hi, Karen. Hello, Faina.
Hi.
You look so, I love the glasses look. I don't normally see you in them.
Well, that's what happens in the evenings. The glasses come on.
Thank you so much. I know it's late for you there in Hong Kong. How are you?
No, I've just put the kids to bed, so I'm feeling rather peaceful. They're probably still awake, and hopefully they won't come in or come out. But
yeah,
things are all right. How are you?
Good. I'm fine. It's Monday morning. It's a beautiful day, actually. So couldn't be more different from last week. And I made my own iced milk tea from old tea that I had yesterday. So yeah, I'm having a good day. Hopefully this will be a nice week.
Well,
what are you drinking?
Vodka soda. So cheers.
Cheers. So Faina and I met about 15 years ago, and she was working at Syndrome Tagore Gallery in New York, and then you moved to Hong Kong to open up Syndrome's first gallery in Asia, and you never came back to New York, which shocked me. I'm sure it shocked you as well, but you now have a family in Hong Kong. You are, and you've transitioned more or less recently to White Cube. Do you want to tell people a little bit briefly about your background and your life in Hong Kong?
Yeah, sure. So given that I worked with Syndrome for so long in so many different capacities, it's a really short story, but you're right. I moved here thinking that I'd be here for a year or two and that I would kind of launch his gallery in Asia and come home, and I sublet my apartment.
What year was that? 2007?
It was early 2008. It was March 2008. Yeah. Also, it was a really interesting time because 6 months after I arrived here, it was the financial crisis. Different kind of crisis, but crisis nevertheless. So yes, and Hong Kong became home, and I really did not expect it. But in Hong Kong, it's a super common story. A lot of people come in a transient way and stay for a really long time. So, and about 2 years ago, I transitioned to. Actually, I left Syndrome just because I was wondering what else I could do, and more or less 6 months later, joined White Cube, and I've been very happy with that change.
Nice. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's one of those stories, and you're right. I think a lot of people I know who moved to Hong Kong and stayed there didn't expect to be there for so long. But it has, it's one of my favorite cities in the world. And you and I were so lucky to see each other when I was there in November. Yeah, it was
in this kind of brief window of relative peace.
Yeah, it was a brief window of relative peace. Yeah, so let's talk quickly about, how Hong Kong has been for you over the last, let's say, 8 months or a year because of the protests, the pro-democracy protests, and now with COVID-19. And as an expat, you have a little bit of a different perspective, obviously, from people who were raised and born there. Tell me what that's been like for you.
Yeah, I mean, what a year it's been. So the summer and the fall of last year were pretty much a scene of, as everyone probably knows, serious civil unrest. And that's really unusual in Hong Kong. It really hasn't happened to this degree since the 60s. In 2014, we had Occupy protests, but they were possibly the most peaceful protests one could ever have. And these were not, and they didn't start out that way, but it kind of escalated over the course of maybe about 8 months. So now, after, I guess, 3.5 months of anxiety of COVID, it's really hard to remember what it felt like in the fall. But the experience of sort of schools being closed, not being able to move around easily, universities going to online, even back then, actually kind of echoed.
Right, because universities were already online because of the protests, right? Some of them.
Yeah, the last month, actually, I think all of them, all 7 universities, the last month of fall semester were online because it really wasn't possible to move around the city for a little while. And a lot of the kind of the critical mass of activity was happening in some of the universities. I know you and I have talked about it, but probably the whole world is aware of it.
It's so crazy because when we were together in Hong Kong, the civic unrest and the protests were such a huge part of the conversation, and I couldn't imagine then what else could bring more tumult to Hong Kong. I mean, it was so upside down and, a huge part of, I mean, it's not like everyone was talking about it, but it was always there as like an underlayer in certain conversations. And like you said, I was there during a time of relative peace. So I can't even imagine what it was. And then about a month later, or 2 months later, as things in Wuhan started, that was a whole other kind of wave that took over.
It's true that it's like just a change in conversation entirely. And while the civil unrest kind of consumed everything for a while, now something else consumes the entire world. But we kind of started to experience it ahead of Europe and the US. And it's interesting because I feel like in some way the length of time that you're thinking about something really changes your perspective. So when I was telling my mom maybe in February, kind of pleading with her, my mom is a singer and a school teacher, and saying, please buy hand sanitizer for your classroom and get the administration involved, and please ask them to do something like an elbow bump or a fist bump for the kids, because she's elementary and everyone just like hugs and kisses each other all the time. Right. She didn't really laugh at me, but kind of, and said something like, and so what, you think I will stop hugging my friends now? Like an unreal conversation that we had. So
yeah, and you were, I would say Hong Kong is about like 2 months ahead in terms of where this pandemic has taken us. But let's step back, because when I was there in November, everyone was kind of gearing up towards March, which was Art Basel Hong Kong, and then that over the course of the next couple months started, kind of falling apart in terms of it even happening. So what was that like for you as someone who works at an international gallery where, I'm sure art fairs are a huge part of what you do?
Right, of course. I mean, the conversation about Art Basel and whether or not it was going to happen as it relates to protests was happening for so long. And in a way was kind of a really annoying conversation to have, to be honest, because the things that were happening here were quite big, but I certainly didn't think that they were going to stop the fair. But again, once COVID became a reality, very quickly became very clear to everyone that, it's a public health risk. So it's no longer a matter of who wrote what email to Art Basel, which dealers would or wouldn't want to participate, or who feels aligned with which side, which, protests were extremely polarizing, not unlike the situation in the U.S. Right. It's very difficult to have a conversation about it unless you really knew where people stood, in a sense. So, and it just kind of erased this debate about it. So it was fairly, and they acted fairly quickly and very responsibly to say, look, we can't do this.
Right. Right. In my first or second week, I spoke with Willem Molesworth, who I know you are acquainted with in Hong Kong, and and you guys have both had roles with the Art Gallery Association there. But I know that he was saying earlier on, when it was about the protests, that the Art Gallery Association was advocating for the art fairs to continue and to not shut Hong Kong down because of the protests. But then the moment the pandemic became a reality, internationally, the position changed, because it was, like you said, it was more of a health risk than just an ideological, are we safe in Hong Kong issue. I felt very safe in Hong Kong when I was there in November. So, I really did. It was a little like,
safe when you were there, yeah.
Yeah, you could see signs of protest for sure, but I guess for me, having lived in New York for so long, you see dissent everywhere. And I think just for Hong Kong, it was a new thing for me to see. So then how did you guys transition the program, knowing that the art fairs were going to be closed?
Well, in a way, when you're kind of faced with a reality where you have certain choices and not others, you adapt to it really quickly. And a lot of the program is, like all the other galleries, online. And so we're really ramping up that aspect of our business. And now you probably know, Frieze New York is about to launch their online viewing rooms tomorrow, actually. So, and I think also art fairs and institutions are really stepping up their game with the online presence, because unlike any other industry, strangely, the art world and the art business is very inconsistent in terms of its quality of online sort of presentations and the technology that people are using. And so I think this might actually be a really interesting push into the 21st century for most galleries and art businesses actually all around. So the linings, right?
Right, I know. Or at the very least, it's accelerated what galleries have been saying for so long that they needed to do, and to get their content online more. And this is for museums as well. But I went on one of the VR exhibition visits the other day for a gallery, because it was an artist I was interested in, and I have to say it was very hard navigating the VR component, because it was just kind of like slippery and tricky. So there's still so much work, I think, that has to be done in order for galleries to feel like for most galleries to feel like they're totally in step with, new technologies right now. My impression and my experience has always been that, for the most part, the fine art world has been slower to adopt new technologies. Sure. But now it's different. So what do you think of what's going to happen with the art ecosystem in terms of the international travel, the international buyers, international exhibitions? Like, in your own head, where do you see the future of this going?
All right. I think if I had a crystal ball, but
let's say you had a crystal ball. You're crystal balling right now.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of different trends that could look. First of all, we don't know how long this is going to be our new reality. Maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months, maybe 2 years, and maybe I read something by this journalist who covers pandemics. I've forgotten his name. Donald O'Neill, maybe, and he talked about it like a hammer and a dance, and he said, maybe we will lock down and then it will free up, and then there will be another wave and we'll lock down again. And so certainly there will be sort of more of a reliance on online, because I can't imagine an art fair in the next 6 months. Maybe Shanghai will be our first one. I know Basel is potentially planning an art fair in September, but it's just really hard for me to imagine that that's going to move forward, given that everything is still shut down, and by the time people are having to make decisions about participating, shipping, not to mention all the other factors, I think it's very difficult. And I think art fairs are such a major, major part of every gallery's business. So, maybe we will do things more locally. Maybe that will have to happen. Right now, there's no international shipping virtually. I mean, there's very little of it, let's say.
And is that because the logistics companies are just shipping is so difficult right now, or because sales are not what they used to be?
No, I think it has much less to do with sales and more to do just with availability of those resources. Like, for example, our London gallery and our New York gallery are shut down. No work can be picked up. It's the case everywhere right now, almost everywhere in Europe and in the US. There's apart from Asia, the two other major markets. So everything is kind of, frozen right now. So, I mean, you're talking about practicalities of it. That's it. But then, so I grew up in USSR, and I feel like I'm certain that these crises kind of facilitate a cultural flowering. And always there's just so much kind of shared interest in things that are happening, and anxiety and anguish, and I think it's going to produce a lot of really interesting content. And you already see that if you follow artists' Instagrams. The kind of content that's coming out is really sensitive and really personal, really kind of frank in a way, and unfiltered.
Have you seen any of the artists that you work with respond in a way that is more specific or due to COVID-19? Like, are they shifting their practices because they can't get to their studios for certain materials? Or, I've had curators say that they've talked with artists whose practices were more socially engaged artworks, and now they're drawing because they couldn't do the type of work they were doing. Have you seen that at all from the people you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. For a variety of reasons. A lot of artists are drawing, actually. Some because they don't have as much time to get to their studio because they're homeschooling their children, and others are engaging with it maybe because they had COVID. And there's some who are doing a lot of charity work because they're able to help and they would like to. And it's really banding artists together in a way as well. I know many artists who are collaborating and
with one another.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a little bit too early to tell. What exactly is going to happen. But I think
I agree.
It's kind of changing the fabric of our society. So as I feel like visionaries of what's ahead, and probably one of the most sensitive layers of population that we have respond to it.
Yeah, right. That's true. So are you having conversations with some of the artists that you work with? I mean, how is the gallery looking at its own role during this time, or you as a gallery director, how do you see your role during this time?
Look, we still take care of some of the same things we did before, and so we're just trying to do it in as sensitive way as we can to make sure that our artists are taken care of, that they feel not just in a kind of everyday quotidian way, but that they feel part of the community and inspired and connected and not alone. It's already a very lonely business to be an artist, and now I think it's further alienating in a way. It can be.
Right, it can be. Right. Or for some others, they're like, oh, thank God I don't have to socialize anymore. I think it can go either way. I've heard both. I've heard some artists just be like, oh, thank God, I'm so sick of going to openings, because especially in a place like New York, I'm sure in Hong Kong too, it's just part of the game. If you show up, the more you show up, the more you're seen, the more you're just remembered. And now the memory is that has to be done in a different way. And I think for some artists, it's probably quite quite a relief to not have to play that game.
Yeah, I think that's really close. They'll tell you this.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's, that's an interesting thought, actually, because one of the exhausting parts about the art world, especially in a city like New York and, cities like Hong Kong and Shanghai, is how social it is. And that's a great thing. But, you're a mom of young children. I'm a mom of young children. Like, we both saw there was a certain point when you just were like, I can't do that at all or as much anymore. It's just not a priority. And, but, you definitely see the folks who are still going out every time. It definitely changes, like, the dynamic of your career. I would say it's a more career thing versus, like, your art or your work. But it makes a difference in certain places. So now, I don't know. I mean, you can get on as many Zoom gatherings as you want. It's just still not the same at all.
But, there are two sides to it. I feel like on the one hand, I totally agree. And not being entirely an extrovert, there are some aspects to this, that are very comfortable. But I also see after 3.5 months now in Hong Kong of not a lockdown, but really serious social distancing, people, oddly myself included, I really starved for content.
Yeah.
And, I went to see, there was an exhibition at Parasite that was about to close, and it was the first art show that I saw, post-COVID, and I went in with my mask on, and I felt so thrilled to be there.
Yeah.
But I do think that, speaking of crystal ball predictions, it's going to change the way we do openings as well. I can't imagine anyone going to a private opening in the next 6 months to a year, right? Maybe it will become more intimate as a result, where you really just go see things one-on-one, or you make an appointment, or you just walk in and see a show at an off hour.
So for YQ Hong Kong, what has been the protocol so far over the last few months? Like, did you guys shut down entirely or no?
We did have some weeks when we were shut down. I honestly can't remember now how many. But we mostly have been open by appointment, which essentially means that there's a kind of a skeleton crew of just a few people, and we were all rotating coming in. Hong Kong is such a different place to the U.S. in that sense. Having been through SARS here, I wasn't here, but Hong Kong, society having been through it, people are extremely rule-abiding. Everybody wears a mask outside. You walk outside, and now we haven't had local contagion for 2 weeks. 100% of the people outside are wearing masks. And
people are kind of going on with their lives, going shopping, going to school, but just staying safe.
No schools.
Oh, right. There's no school. Yeah. Okay, but like the shops are open. The
economy didn't shut down. Yeah, and a lot of galleries did shut down, but a lot of them didn't, and some actually remained open, and others were open by appointment. So we've mostly been open by appointment, but this week we're opening to the public because we had so it's a new step, and I do see the change in energy as well. I think a lot of galleries start opening their doors. I think as Warner opened, now they're open by appointment, but they were shut before. So it's just doing it in stages, and even though we're open to the public, it's still not the full staff that's there.
Right. So what does that mean, being open to the public? Are you limiting the number of people at a time?
Probably. I haven't been in yet. It's Monday.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's starting tomorrow. I don't know. I'm sure we're limiting, but I think generally it's probably won't be necessary because not so many people are going to be coming in anyway.
Yeah. Right. It's not like, it's not a highly foot trafficked area on a normal day, but then I assume like.
So,
sorry, say that again?
Any building you walk into, there are people at the front of the building who take your temperature, or there's a machine that's set up where your temperature is taken, and you're required to wear a mask. And, the gallery in Hong Kong is quite large, so I can't imagine that it would be problematic.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to see. It's exciting that it's happening because it's like giving us hope that there's, of course, what I predict, and obviously this is based on a lot of what experts are saying, is that even if we reopen in the near future, there will be times that it kind of goes back to, not a lockdown, but it'll contract, and it'll grow. It'll go back and forth over time, because we're just kind of in the plague years, where it's just going to be around. So it's not going to be normal as it was before. But it gives me hope that you guys are opening, that Hong Kong is, doing it what it's doing. At the same time, you're right. The society is so different there versus the United States, like in Hong Kong.
It's a smaller place. So.
It's a smaller place, but, there are Asian countries, I think just in general, right? Asian countries they're more, I don't want to, generalize, but like they're more homogenous places, and they are places where people tend to like follow the order of law more or less. Whereas in the United States, like it's my right to not wear a face mask. So even if my government tells me not to, I'm not going to, even if it's for the, benefit of society and just help us all get out of this faster. People just want to do what they want to do.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest issue in the U.S. is that there's no unified messaging about it, right? It's like, we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, no, we don't. It's so crazy. Well, we only have 3 minutes left, so I told you it was going to go by fast. So if anyone has any questions for Faina of White Cube, please put in the comments. And if anyone, has anything else to say, just put it in there. But I guess I wanted to ask you, in our last few minutes, because you're working full time, and you have your 2 little kids, and you've been doing this from home. How have you been using this time for yourself? Is there anything you've been able to do for yourself to feel better about things, to relax?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that's part of the silver lining. I used to travel a lot, and now I've tucked my kids in every single day for the past 3.5 months. That's such a gift.
And that wasn't something that was part of your life on a daily basis before?
Not on a daily basis. I tried to do it as much as possible, but of course I traveled some. I mean, probably a quarter of my time I would travel on estimation. And then I would have events, as you said, from time to time. I tried to be pretty disciplined about half-half, but now this continuity has been wonderful. I've been reading books. Because we haven't been able, now we're going out more, and because we hadn't been able before to do much outside, we would go camping and just have like a very internal and, I have to say, very fulfilling family life. I mean, it took me to get used to it because, it's a whole new deal. But once I settled into it, it's a nice rhythm as well, and I'm trying to just appreciate the things that I know I'm not going to have again in some period of time. Who knows how long? And
that's beautiful. Your kids must be thrilled.
I mean, they are, but it's also tough on kids. Like my older daughter, who's 8 and likes to read a lot and is really into history, asked me at some point after like the most serious week of protests in Hong Kong if we were living through a civil war. And she has an imagination too, so. And then, this whole thing makes them feel like maybe we will never go back to the U.S. and see family. I mean, I think that bit is a little complicated because we're so far away from all of our people.
Yeah.
But, Zoom makes a difference.
It does. I mean, for better or for worse, it really does. We have one question from Ilona, who's an artist I know in Boston. She says, how has this new situation altered your way of seeing new work? Also, have you discovered interesting new artists?
I mean, I'm mostly seeing works online, but I certainly am much more educated about where to see works online. And I've spent quite a bit of time looking at different platforms that I didn't sort of know about.
Can you tell us what some of them are?
I mean, like a variety of things. I can put it in a chat later, but or even just like different. Like, for example, I've been reading this website that was created by David Byrne. This is not about discovering art necessarily, but just like different media called Reasons to Be Cheerful. I don't know if you've heard of it. It was pretty fantastic. They put together all these stories of people who are not only seeking positive change, but also, enacting it and doing it with some measure of success. And it's not just related to COVID. It's kind of all issues around the world. But I also feel like, to go back to art and artists, I've been in touch with a lot more people in like a kind of a long way, not just like a WhatsApp message, but a conversation. And so naturally, a lot of my friends are artists, and I've seen a lot of their work that I maybe didn't see, recent works, or heard more about their experiences. So
I think that's so true. It's like, it's not necessarily expanding your circle of knowledge of who artists are, but like digging deeper into some of the people that you already know and perhaps in the past didn't have, the time or capacity for. But yeah, it's true. I've engaged a little bit with people I already know and learning more about their work during this time because we have some more time. But it's a really good question, and I'd be curious to know about some of those other platforms that you looked at, because I think most people I know use Instagram to discover new art. Right. But that's a very specific type of art that translates, only on a screen, and it doesn't. And we talked about this with Willem, I think, during his talk. It's very hard to translate 3-dimensional works on your phone, and so he was saying even for them at the gallery, online sales that are representing 2-dimensional works, always do better. But yeah, it's it's kind of one of those things too now as galleries shift online more. It kind of changes what you see to be, or what is deemed successful in terms of sales or interest, right? It's like he was saying that because paintings are so much, or photographs are so much easier to show online, maybe that's what they'll focus on more for online sales.
I mean, I also think that there's always been some conversation about how digital or online might step into the territory of brick and mortar and replace the experience. And I think nothing is ever going to replace kind of the personal interaction and having all of your senses engaged. Right. But at a moment like this, it's kind of the only thing we have in many places. And so maybe this will accelerate, online viewing rooms where you don't just look at an image flag, but you see it next to a person and, in perspective. And I don't really know how you can really connect with new art via online.
You have to they just have to develop a teleporting system, right? Where everyone gets teleported to a viewing room and you're like a hologram. I mean, that has to be next. If someone's not doing it, I'll do it. I'll figure it out.
Or, like remember that movie Strange Days with Ray Fiennes when he's addicted to this, alternate reality where they put, a little hat on his head and he closes his eyes and he's transported. It's like a drug. It's like a dopey film. So maybe they could do that for...
Yeah, we are so far from that, but I'm sure that's where we're going to get at some point. Maybe one day it's because global warming is going to force us to not leave our homes. And so that's how we have to experience things. I mean, people are already doing this through video games. The person I had 2 days ago was, she created a Kusama obliteration room in Animal Crossing, which is a Nintendo game. And so people can actually go in and visit it. Yeah. So people are doing it. And she's not even a fine art person. She's a designer who loves art. And created, Bruce Nauman. I mean, she recreated art galleries in Animal Crossing. And, that stuff reaches millions of people way beyond what the traditional art world
Oh, I want to see that. Will you send it to me later?
I'll show it to you. But we're now 4 minutes out, and I just wanted to... I know, but I want to say thank you so much. I know it's so late for you, and you are so busy. And I don't know. I wish I could see you. I know, it was great, and there were so many people engaged on this conversation, which I love too. And I saw Karash from Dubai checked in, and I don't know. It's kind of cool. This is kind of cool. So, how was your first Instagram Live?